Hari Om. Whenever I think of the stories from the Puranas, I always end up admiring sage Veda Vyasji, not just admiring, that reverence, that respect just flows because, oh my God, what a masterpiece of a storyteller that he was. Because the messages that are hidden in the Upanishads are extremely subtle. It's not something that a common human mind can unearth from there. It takes a special soul to be able to do that. And our Veda Vyasji did not simply, take some message from the Upanishad and just put it into some story and narrated it for us. No, that's not what he did. He so beautifully made a story that is so easy to imagine by the human mind, with so many names and forms and relationships and values, the good, the evil, the indifferent, the divine, all kinds. They were all part of that story. And what was the purpose of the story? To give us that same subtle message that is in the Upanishads, so beautifully portrayed through a story, so we may remember it, and the more we remember and recollect, the more we try and live it, because it slowly becomes a part of us. And this is such a beautiful idea. After that, there have been so many. Storytelling today is a big, way of teaching, of putting across anything about yourself, maybe your company, your friends, whatever it may be. Everywhere there's a story. So when we see other stories, they may look like entertainment, or they may look like stories that have some, something that touches us, something that helps us recognize a talent or a capacity, or, something that is useful to promote oneself maybe, or to inspire and encourage another maybe. But the stories of the Puranas are something unique, because these stories are actually stories that speak not just a language of words, but these are stories that are told in a language of symbolism. And this language of symbolism is so beautiful when we start to see it more and more in the various stories of the Puranas as we read them. Because as kids, of course, our grandmother told us stories, our teachers told us stories, and we've heard a lot of those stories in childhood, and the stories were so fascinating and nice. And then as we grew up, we had questions. How is this even possible? It's illogical. So many intellectual questions coming up. But as we embark on the spiritual path, we realize that storytelling was such a powerful medium that it attracted the little ones, the young ones, even the intellectual ones. Because if intellectual ones also have the Shraddha, then they will look for meaning, they'll look for some logic, even though apparently no logic is visible. And all that logic is actually hidden in this language of symbolism. And every single story in the Puranas can be explained through symbolism. It just needs maybe a master from whom we have learned, or even if we just sit with that story in mind, some kind of symbolic significance just comes to mind. Today, here is an attempt at trying to find what the symbolism may be in the story of Shiva and Sati. Sati, who goes on to be reborn as Parvati and again united with Lord Shiva. So this is a story that occurs in many Puranas actually. Of course, it comes in the Shiva Purana, that's the very basis. And then it's also seen in the Bhagavata Purana, in the Skanda Purana, Padma Purana, Linga Purana. So it comes in many places. In fact, you can see it even in Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now, what's the story? I'm sure all of us are familiar with the story. So, yes, it so happened that once upon a time, as every story goes, um, Lord Brahma's son, Prajapati Daksha, he was the Prajapati of that time, and he had a wife called Prasuti. Now, Daksha and Prasuti had a baby girl, a beautiful baby girl, and they named her Sati. And when she came of age for marriage, Lord Brahma came to Daksha and said, "Look, this child is meant to be united with Lord Shiva, and you will not find anyone better than him for a son-in-law." Daksha Prajapati was not too, happy about this, because he thought, oh, Lord Shiva, he is the one who hardly has any clothes to wear and one jata. How he looks, we don't know his, lineage, who are his parents, God only knows. And he walks with that trishula and a snake, and, body is full of booty. And he's walking around in the smashanas and here and there and everywhere, no particular place, and always sitting in dhyana. How will my daughter really be there? But then, who mentioned this to him? His very father, isn't it? Lord Brahma. So Daksha Prajapati obviously had lot of respect for what Lord Brahma would say, and he also had that faith that whatever Lord Brahma says must have some deeper meaning. So yes, reluctantly only, but Daksha Prajapati agreed, and Sati was married to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva also agreed, because this was the prayer of the Devatas also. So Sati was married to Shiva, and they went to Kailasa. One day, Prajapati, Daksha, all the Prajapatis, right, they would always have a Sabha, an assembly. And in one such assembly, everybody was seated, including Lord Shiva, and Daksha Prajapati entered. When he entered the Sabha, everybody stood up as a mark of respect for the Prajapati. All but one. And Daksha Prajapati, he of course noticed it. He looked, and from the corner of his eye, he saw, my son-in-law. What arrogance! He did not get up to pay respect. One is, I am Prajapati. Secondly, I am his father-in-law. I shall remember this, thought Daksha Prajapati, and of course the Sabha went on. Now, the Sabha happened, everybody dispersed, that's fine. A few months later, Shiva and Sati, they were going for a walk in Kailasa, they were outskirts. And Sati was sitting there on a rock. And what did she see? All the Devatas are going somewhere, and they're all dressed in what finery, silken clothes and jewelry, and they're looking, all set for a celebration. Where might they be going? She wondered. And Nandi was there with her, and she asked him to go and find out. And she learned that in fact, all of these people were going to her father's house. Daksha Prajapati had arranged for a yajna, a yaga, and they were all invited, and they were going there to attend the yaga. But Sati wondered, why were we not invited? So she approached Lord Shiva and said, "Dear Lord, everybody is going to my father's place for a yaga. Looks like father forgot to invite us. It's possible he must have been so busy with all the preparations. And anyway, I am his daughter after all. So I don't see any harm in us just going and attending. Please join me. Let us go to my father's place." Lord Shiva, he is the Sarvagnya, isn't it? He knows everything. He says, "My dear Sati, I don't think it's the right thing to do for us to go there. Let's go at another time. I will take you. Sati looked at him and said, but there's a celebration going on, my lord, and I want to be part of it. I'm one of his daughters. I'm sure something must have happened and he's just forgotten. And as a daughter, I have every right to go. I don't need permission. Well, Lord Shiva tried to convince her against it, but she wouldn't. So he said, all right, you go ahead. And he asked Nandi and some of the other Ganas to escort her. So Sati went to the Yagashala. When she went there, she saw that all her sisters and family were there. She saw that all the gods were seated there. Even Lord Vishnu with Mother Lakshmi were sitting there. Everybody was there. She wondered, how did Father miss just me and my Lord? Never mind. And then she tried to connect with her father with her eyes because he was busy and he kept trying to avoid her. And Sati was baffled. She was like, what is happening here? And she could not contain herself anymore. So she went to her father and asked, Father, how is it that you forgot to invite me and my husband? And then Daksha Prajapati was so angry with his son-in-law that he started saying, that mannerless fellow, he doesn't know how to recognize neither his father-in-law nor the Prajapati. Why should I invite him? Sati was shocked. She said, oh my God, you did not recognize the Lord of the universe? What a pity, Father. And me, I am ashamed to have this body from someone like you who does not recognize the Lord. The Lord has come to you and you shun him away. She was so angry, she just cursed the entire Sabha there. She said, every one of you here is going to be destroyed by the power of Shiva. Going to be destroyed by the power of my Lord. And so saying, in her anger, she just immolated herself in the fire of the yaga itself. Oh my God. And when she did that, the whole Sabha was so shocked. And at that time, Nandi and the other Ganas who had come there attacked the Sabha and people were killed. And Shiva, when he realized what had happened, that Lord of the universe, his wrath, his anger, who can face it? He pulled out his hair in two bunches, and from one came Veerabhadra, from the other came Bhadrakali. And he asked these two forces to go to Daksha Prajapati's Yagashala and cut off Daksha Prajapati's head. And that's exactly what happened. Veerabhadra went there and chopped off Daksha Prajapati's head. And after some time, Lord Shiva calmed down. His anger and his wrath had gone away. And then he saw what had happened in the Sabha, and then he brought back to life the rest of the Sabha. As far as Daksha Prajapati was concerned, he got the head of a goat and attached it. And so now Daksha Prajapati was the one with a goat head. Of course, the rest of the Sabha, they were restored to life. And Mother Sati was gone. Daksha Prajapati begged forgiveness and he surrendered to Lord Shiva. And after that, we never find Daksha Prajapati disrespecting Lord Shiva. But what was done was done. But there was a purpose for uniting Lord Shiva with Sati. And that purpose was left unfinished. And so, the Devatas prayed and requested for the union again. And Mother Sati was now born as Parvati, daughter of Himavan, the Parvata Raja. And I'm sure we're all familiar with the story of Parvati also. So, Mother Parvati, as a young girl itself, She'd given her heart to Lord Shiva, and she had decided that he would be her husband, and she took permission of her father and the permission of Lord Shiva, who was sitting in Tapas in Kailas. She went and served him. She cleaned the place. She got flowers for his puja. She did tapas to win him, and finally she won him over and they were united. Now all this is part of the story. Let's come to the significance part, the symbolic significance part. Because what is it that we gain by just knowing this story? Oh, is that so? So this happened with Sati. Oh, we say, oh, Daksha Prajapati should not have done that. Oh, Lord Shiva should not have done this. Sati should have waited with a little more patience. So many possible comments can come. All that will come only when we don't understand the symbolic significance of the story. So let us dwell upon all the occurrences and see what the symbolic meaning may be here. What is it trying to tell us? So we have Daksha Prajapati. And Daksha is capability, talents, the capacity, dakshate. Daksha also means efficiency when we use our talents. And Prasuti, what does Prasuti mean? Prasuti means creation or giving birth, that is Prasuti. And who is Brahma? Brahma, of course, is the creator of this universe. He has created everything, and Brahma represents the Samashti. On the advice of the inner voice, when our efficiency gives rise in us that medium which helps us unite with the Supreme Reality. Supreme Reality is none other than Lord Shiva. So, the inner voice gives that advice. It helps us recognize that opportunity to unite with the Supreme Reality. On the other hand, our talents, capabilities, efficiency, capacity, all of this also strengthens our ego if we are not careful. And that ego many times expresses as arrogance and haughtiness. So, when reluctantly upon the advice of an elder, like for here in this story it is upon the advice of Lord Brahma, when we reluctantly take to the path of inner journey, it's not by choice, but we don't want to go against what the elders are saying, and so we take it up. Now taking up this inner journey is represented in the story as Daksha Prajapati giving his daughter in marriage to Lord Shiva. And there lies that opportunity for us that was an opportunity for Daksha to unite with Lord Shiva. So similarly in us, when upon the advice of an elder, a guru, a good friend, when we start on this inner journey, it is an opportunity where Mother Prakriti is ready to help us, is ready to get us united with the Supreme Reality. And this is a precious opportunity. But what happens? Our talents and our capacities have strengthened our ego so much that it sort of expresses, like I said, that haughtiness. And in that arrogance and haughtiness, what happens? We expect that this Supreme Reality, or let's bring him one level towards the creation as Ishvara, we want that Ishvara to fulfill whatever we ask for. In the sense, he is the means to fulfill my commands, my desires. Now that is haughtiness, that I command Ishvara. I expect Ishvara to respect me. Now that is arrogance. And that's what is represented in the story, where Lord Shiva does not get up in respect for Prajapati Daksha, not because Lord Shiva did not respect him, but there was no need. He is the supreme. But Daksha Prajapati fails to recognize that, and he is affected because his ego is hurt. And the ego is hurt because he expected that the Supreme Reality would bow down to him. Now, the Supreme Reality is in fact the very source of our talents and capacities, isn't it? And it's complete arrogance and ingratitude to expect that great reality to bow down to us. Now, but then this will not happen. But when the capacities, the efficiency in us is trying to express in a certain way, at that time what happens? We deliberately start ignoring the supreme in us and say, it's my life and I'm the boss and I do what my mind says. It's all because of my capacity, my talent, my intelligence. So that ego is expressing. But we do acknowledge the various divine forces, the other forces, because we need them for our worldly transactions. We need them to express our efficiency. And so in the Sabha, everybody was invited. But we can very easily ignore that supreme reality which is sitting quietly, uninvolved as a witness. We can completely ignore it, right? And we do that many times deliberately. Even if somebody reminds us, we deliberately say, my intelligence is enough to take care of this. But at that time, Mother Prakriti gets angry, isn't it? When Mother Sati came there to the Yagashala, Prajapati Daksha completely ignored her, isn't it? And when he ignored her, what anger in her? And when not just for ignoring her, but when he insulted the supreme reality, Mother Prakriti cannot take it. Because he is her Lord and he is the supreme reality, and everyone must be able to recognize it. And in fact, the marriage of Sati with Lord Shiva was supposed to teach that to Daksha Prajapati. But instead he totally ignored it. And so in that anger, Mother Prakriti can just take away all the forces that were helping us to express our talents. So she curses in the Sabha that all the people who have assembled there will get destroyed by the power of Shiva. So what does that mean? All the talents in us, as they are expressing out as efficiency, we need the other forces also to support it. And that is completely cut off by Mother Prakriti, because that arrogance has to be brought down. Now, Ishvara, witnessing all this, there is a law. What we have done, we have to face the results. And to face that Daksha Prajapati's arrogance, strong forces are needed, courage is needed. Because as the ego gets strong and subtle, it's difficult to overcome it. But what is difficult for the Lord? So Lord Shiva sends Veerabhadra and Bhadrakali, two strong forces, and they destroy the pride, the arrogance, the haughtiness associated with this efficiency. Of course, efficiency is required in the creation, isn't it? For our day-to-day transactions, efficiency is very much important. Our talents are important, but they just have to be divorced, as Gurudev Swami Maheshwaranandaji would say. Divorce it. Because where ego prevails, God cannot be. And we have to, if God cannot prevail, if God cannot shine through me, nothing will shine for long. So, Daksha Prajapati's head being cut off is the symbolic representation of the ego being removed. Now, Daksha Prajapati surrenders to Lord Shiva, and that is Sharanagati. Once when we surrender to the Lord, what is there? Bhagavan's work is done, and he goes back in that place. He is everywhere, of course, but in a special way, he is in our heart space, spiritual heart. All right, but Mother Prakriti, she is a mother full of compassion. So she comes back because there's lots of work to be done by the Jiva, by us, isn't it? And we need her help. So she manifests again. And how? This time as Parvata Raja's daughter. What is a Parvata? Parvata is solidity, isn't it? So when our learnings have given rise to that conviction in us, strong convictions, we know for sure. And after Sharanagati, definitely I am with Bhagavan, and Bhagavan's strength helps me to have those strong convictions because it is backed by faith in the Lord, and That is what stands as Himavan, and from this is born Parvati. And now this Shakti in us, the Shakti of Parvati in us, is now ready to embark on that tapas. That without that tapas, how can we attain the Lord? This is what is shown by Mother Parvati's episode here. And what tapas she does? First of all, voluntarily she has given herself to Lord Shiva, meaning after Sharanagati, after this conviction has arisen in us, we voluntarily give ourselves to uniting with the Supreme Reality. We are convinced now that that is what is to be done, right? So, just as Mother Parvati did the various types of tapas, maybe as Aparna and facing the Lord in the form of a brahmachari, again insulting the Lord and her anger, and then she does even more rigorous tapas. Similarly, when we have our convictions, lot of challenges come in different ways to test us. But when we keep at it, Bhagwan also smiles at us and relents. And finally, after all that tapas and single pointed devotion, Ananya Bhakti, Mother Parvati is united with Lord Shiva. And similarly, we too, when we have become that Parvati, the result of strong convictions backed by devotion and faith in Bhagwan, we are done. Even Bhagwan becomes helpless and he helps us unite with him, and there ends the fulfillment of all manifestations, whether it is the manifestation as I, this individual, or the manifestation of Lord, the Supreme Reality as Lord Shiva or as Ishvara, doesn't matter. All manifestations, this is the only purpose, to help the Jiva unite with its true nature, which is Satchitananda Parabrahma. So, when this is the purpose and this has been attained, what more is there? So, I get united with, whether we call it Bhagwan through Bhakti or with Supreme Reality, Brahman, Atman, Satchit, Ananda, whatever it is, finally it is Shivoham, Shivoham. In all this, in this story, what is most notable is the unconditional, infinite compassion that Bhagwan has towards the Jiva. Bhagwan here represents Mother Maya or Prakriti and the Brahman together only form what we call Ishvara or Bhagwan. And whether it is Mother Parvati's love, Mother Sati's love, their Shraddha, that fierce loyalty, or whether we see Lord Shiva in his anger, or Mother Sati in her anger, or we see Lord Shiva's indifference to Daksha Prajapati, whatever it may be, in all of that, what we see is the compassion of Bhagwan towards the Jiva. Because this way or that way, yena kena prakarena, he will ensure, if not this life, next life, if not next life, one more life. So how many lives we have spent like this? Bhagwan has been giving us opportunities again and again, again and again, to unite us with him. So through stories like this, Bhagavan Veda Vyasa is trying to tell us, enough, don't waste any more lives. This life, you have got all this. Come on, come on, come on, unite yourself. Unite yourself with Bhagwan, unite yourself with the Supreme Reality that you are. You don't have to suffer like this as a Jiva. Are we listening?